All right, welcome everybody to the September 26th meeting of the Franklin Municipal Planning Commission. Thanks everybody for being here tonight. We will start this meeting with a review of our minutes from our August meeting. Do I have a motion?
Move for approval. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is a time if you have items you want to discuss with the commission that are not on tonight's agenda, please come forward and we'll hear you out. All right, I see none, then we'll move on to announcements. Catherine?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to remind everybody that CPAT was here last week. They did 2 public presentations and spent numerous hours working privately and with staff. We anticipate that we will be getting a preliminary report from them in the next month or so.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, again, ladies and gentlemen, if there's any items you want to present to the commission that are not on tonight's agenda, please come forward and we'll consider those. If not, we'll move on.
I have a question, I don't know if it's the right place for it or not. There was, people in our community received a letter about an item to be heard tonight, but I don't see it on the agenda. So is it safe to say it's not going to appear tonight, or, I don't know how to properly?
Could you give us your name
Yes, my name is Scott Whippleberg. I'm the president of the Chilton Farm East Homeowner Association.
and the item?
The Andover Park is what they're calling it, 1126 Liberty Pike.
Andover Park is not on the agenda this evening.
Okay, good. Thank you. They sent a letter that it was, so I'm glad to hear that.
No.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, at least. All right, then we'll move on to our consent agenda. These are items that are considered non-controversial that we'll vote on in one, actually two agendas for tonight, the initial and the secondary consent. So, and I'll ask the staff and audience and commission if there's any items they want to pull from tonight's consent agenda. And let me list those out so you'll know. Items 7, 8, 13, 14, 16 through 23 are on initial consent, and I will say, commissioners, the item 12 that's noted as consent is actually non-consent, so we will consider that item tonight. All right, so anyone want to pull an item off of the initial consent agenda? All right, I see none. Is there a motion?
Move for approval. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Now we'll move to the secondary consent. As I understand, Michael, you're recusing yourself from this item?
Yes, sir.
All right, this is item number 15 that we'll consider separately. Do I have a motion?
Move for approval. Staff
Second.
recommendation.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, let's start with item number 9. Ordinance 2013-37, been entitled an ordinance to rezone .29 acres from historic core residential district R6 to residential variety RX.
Yes,
For the-
Mr. Chairman, this is a request to rezone 2 RX in support of a 2-lot townhouse, or not townhouse, single-family development on 411 Cummins. And this is a project that was heard before and denied and has come back in a different, with a fewer number of houses on the lot. And we have worked diligently with the applicant to make sure that this one meets all of the criteria. This is simply the rezoning.
Okay. All right, anyone in the audience that wants to speak to the rezoning portion of this application? If you'll come forward and state your name, where you live, and if you'll keep your comments to 2 minutes or less, I would appreciate it.
Hi, Margie Tyree, 2211 Oak Branch Circle, and I was against the 3 houses there, but I think it's going to be okay for 2 houses to be built there, so I'm okay with the project.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, let's move on to anyone representing the applicant. If you could come forward, please.
Good evening. Doug Sharp with Gresham Smith and Partners. As Catherine mentioned, this is something that is a familiar agenda item to you, and we're here back this evening with the major adjustment of bringing this to a 2-lot in lieu of a 3-lot proposal. The graphic that you see on the wall indicates from a lot size perspective, puts into context the balance of the block. So what you're seeing there in the color is the existing orange bordered existing lot. And the red line is the proposed zone line to establish the two lots by way of rezoning and eventually a plat. You can see now that the 2 lots in the context of the rest of the block are wider than the rest of the lots in the middle of the block, and also more square footage as well. So we really understand that last time, I think everything that came up in the matter of discussion, there were a number of issues, but I think it really boiled down to just really kind of pushing the envelope a little too much. It just wasn't, it was beyond the level of comfort, and even though then, as in now, it agrees with the policy of the Columbia Avenue overlay district and the like, this is to a T, and we're hoping to have your support as we take this to BOMA. Any questions?
All right, thank you, Doug. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Is there a second? Okay.
Second.
Move to second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I have to recuse from items 9 and 10.
Okay, thank you, Michael. All right, if there's no other discussion, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We move to item number 10. For the record, Michael Orr has recused himself from item 10 as well. Resolution 2013-54 to be entitled a resolution approving a development plan for the cottages on Cummins Street PUD subdivision.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Staff recommends approval with the conditions set forth on the staff report, with one exception, and I think Dan Allen, wait, is this the right one? Yeah. I think Dan Allen has, wants to make one quick change to the condition.
Yeah, if you look at the staff report, condition number 2 under engineering dealing with parking, that condition needs to be amended and taken off. They satisfied that. Staff just forgot to close it out and it just slipped into the staff report. So the applicant has already addressed that. So
Okay.
if the Plan Commission could amend that, that'd be great.
All right, we'll do it. Okay, anyone in the audience wants to speak to this item? All right, I see none, then I'll entertain a motion.
Motion approved.
Second.
Hold on, in your motion, please include the fact that we're omitting that condition number 2 under the engineering comments.
Okay.
If you can amend your motion, I'll consider that.
Sure, I'll amend that to consider that.
Okay.
Yes, second.
All right,
Second.
thank you, Jimmy. All right, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 11, ordinance 2013-49 to be entitled ordinance to rezone 43.2 acres to Height Overlay District for the property located at 9009 Carruthers.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is a request to put an overlay, the HTO overlay, on this property, with the exception of 200 feet along Carruthers. That will provide a buffer transition zone from the single-family and 2 and 3 stories properties along Carruthers to the north. So staff has worked with the applicant to make sure that there is that transition, and since all of the surrounding areas in the HTO, staff is comfortable recommending approval.
All right. Anyone in the audience wants to speak about this item other than the applicant? All right, is there someone representing the applicant?
Evening, members of the Planning Commission. Alan Thompson with Reagan Smith and Associates here on behalf of our client Limestone. As Catherine said, we've worked with the staff from the very beginning. We originally looked at requesting the entire 50 acres for this height overlay. I think their suggestion was to pull back from Carruthers, and we completely agree. It fits with what's currently out there. But we feel like this is appropriate for this site, and we'd appreciate your support. I'm here if you have any questions.
All right, thank you. All right. Can't even talk tonight. Is there a motion?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Item 12, 3150 Boyd Mill Avenue subdivision preliminary plat, 7 lots, 4 open space lots on 2.66 acres. Staff?
Mr. Chairman, staff recommends approval with the conditions on the staff report.
Okay. Anyone in the audience who wants to speak to this item? If you could come forward and give us your name, where you live, and let's keep your comments to 2 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name's Gary Ewing. I am a resident at 3212 Vera Valley Road, which is one of the properties that abuts this proposed property. I've reviewed the plat, and in general, it seems reasonable, but there are 3 concerns I want to raise. One relates to the tree canopy. They stated that they would protect 45% of the tree canopy, but there's no explanation of what that's to include. There's a slave wall that runs on the entire western boundary of that property, and it's surrounded by this tree canopy. We'd like to see all of that preserved. Thing that concerns me about the slave wall is in the notes of the plat. It said there are no historic structures within 500 feet of the property, and I consider that slave wall on the boundary of the property and a historic property that should be preserved. The third concern I have is there's some indications of some drainage swales, but there's no explanations of how those are to function. For those of you who may or may not know, the property in this location is a good 8 feet higher than the surrounding property. If this drainage is not very carefully constructed, that water will be diverted to the lower property, which includes my home. Having come from a similar property in Mount Juliet where the drainage ran all through my crawl space, I want to make sure that intentionally or unintentionally that doesn't happen again.
Okay.
So those are my 3 concerns. I'd like to see those answered before I can change my vote to 4. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Richard Ionelli. I live at 311 Millbank Lane, right on the back corner of that. I don't necessarily for or against it. My concern is that our whole Spencer Hall neighborhood was phosphate farmed, and it is lower than that property. That road is level with the property, and then the soccer fields are lower. So my concern is just where is it going to drain? Because right now, when it rains a lot, we get a buildup on Millbank Lane of about 1.5 feet. So that's just my concern, is that I think it's unique because it's elevated and the farming that was done of the land around it. So I just wanted to be on record with that concern.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, is there a motion before we start discussion?
Motion approved.
Motion to approve? I'm sorry. Thank you. Is there someone representing the applicant?
Thank you, Commissioner. My name is Greg Gamble, here representing the applicant and owner, Daniel Crockett. And if it would please the Commission, I'm happy to answer the questions that were brought up tonight, just for clarity. The first question was in regard to the preservation of the historic wall. The historic wall is on the, that'd be the western portion of the property and runs north to south. We have a 20-foot landscape easement through there that will be a part of our tree preservation requirements. There's a very healthy stand of trees that are along that edge of the property, and we'll also protect the historic stone wall that's existing in that location. Matter of fact, you can see the area on this plan, everything that's hatched on sheet, I believe that's, I can't see the number.
Looks like 0.5.
0.2 is our tree preservation canopy. There are a handful of trees that have X's on them that are maple trees well past their life expectancy and have a lot of damaged wood and damaged limbs in them. Met with Larry Mizell on the property and have agreed, he has agreed that the trees are beyond saving at this point. So The next question was regarding the drainage and the swales. Along Boyd Mill Avenue here, we have identified locations for our detention areas. There are swales that run outside of those 20-foot landscape easements from the rear of the property back down to these detention areas in the front. With that, we received a comment during the review process from staff, and the comment was to include a looping water line that would go from the end of the cul-de-sac way over to the west through the adjacent neighbors' yards to connect to a water line out on the street. That water line is shown on our plan. Today I received an email from Ben McNeil, and he apologized for the late notice, but he said that after the water department's review, that they did not need that additional water line loop. It's shown on the plan because we wanted to meet the staff's condition, but are hoping that with the resubmittal of plans for post-PC that water line connection to the west would be removed and we would not have to connect through the neighbors' yards. I just wanted to bring that to your attention and put that on record. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions I'm happy to address.
All right, thank you. All right, now, is there a motion?
I had a question. Is it 2.66 acres or 2.86? One, the map says 2.66 on the title thing, and then on our sheet it says 2.66.
2.86 acres total.
Okay.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Is that approval? Do we need to have in our condition the motion omitting that
We
water
can
line?
eliminate, and I think that would be cleaner if you eliminated that condition.
Okay,
So, well, how about I just rescind my motion?
Okay.
Start over.
please do.
There are no conditions on this.
It wasn't written.
There's no
it was just
condition
a-
on there.
It was just one that was said verbally. So it's not a
Is there,
condition.
is staff okay with that? I mean, we're trusting.
We can change things, as we go through the post-PC. We're all aware that that condition no longer takes place.
And it's not written anyway.
So we don't have a number of condition on our staff report.
Yeah, staff just determined it this morning at like 10 o'clock in the
Okay.
morning. So when they resubmit it, we'll just
We'll
take
handle
it
that.
off and
Okay.
manage it administratively if the planning
Move for
commission.
approval.
Move for approval?
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. All right, I believe that is our agenda. Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Is it seconded?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Before everyone